Hello, friends. Welcome back to Holy Ourselves, a podcast where we explore faith, sexuality, and gender, and what it looks like to be more whole in this crazy world. And so I'm really excited that I get to have a really close friend on with me.
Yay. We've been talking about this for a long time.
We
It
have.
finally happened.
It finally happened. I know. We have talked about the fact that in Becoming Whole, well, you did feature in
I
Becoming
did.
Whole, reading the
Twice.
poem
And a
twice.
confession.
And the confession. That was all in episode 3, I believe. So if you go to Becoming Whole, the miniseries, you'll get to hear Rachel give a confession and all that stuff.
And Mary Oliver poem.
And a Mary Oliver poem, which
Yes.
you're the one who picked that out,
Yeah.
which was perfect, by the way.
Good one.
So you've introduced me to Mary Oliver. So,
Yeah.
well, Rachel, do you want to introduce yourself to our audience of who you are?
Sure. So I'm Rachel Dowda. I live in West Palm Beach with my cat Olive. I'm a therapist, and then I also love to read and do yoga and walk. And as Josh said, I'm crafty or artsy. You said one of
You
those.
are.
I'm crafty, and I just really love people and my community, and that takes up a lot of my life alone
It
in
does.
the best kind of way.
Yeah, we even have some of your stuff, like, hanging in our house.
Yes.
That's lovely. Yeah. There's a crafting guild that a
hmm
beautiful human being in our, community puts together, and, I feel like I haven't gotten to go in forever, but have you gone lately?
Yes, once a month.
Yeah, once a month, so I feel like I've missed, like, the past
The art you
5.
have is from the exhibit that Emily,
Yeah, so
who
whoever you
actually
all that have met.
yeah,
Yeah,
for, sexual, violence.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, we're gonna be talking about, community, because 'cause we're in community together, and especially as queer people. So maybe give a little bit more context so you're queer and a
Yes.
therapist,
Yes.
and what it maybe just share, because that's how long have you now been licensed, or like are you in the process?
So, it takes 2 years to be licensed at minimum, and I should be done in February, so very close,
Yeah,
but I guess I'm still practicing.
yeah, practicing.
And so I have been doing that for almost 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
crazy.
Yeah.
And you get to actually work in this office
I
as
know. So where
well.
we are, this is where I work out of.
Yes.
I work for Bungalow Counseling, and it's really special. It's a lot of people in our community
Yeah,
also.
yeah. Sarah Claire being one of the leaders who, if again, Becoming Whole, is the person who I had the conversations with. So I love that was actually, I don't know if you caught it. When we had a friend visiting this weekend, and um at the beach was like, Sarah Claire's voice sounds familiar. And I was like, oh, that's
Amazing.
because she's was in Becoming Whole. So okay, yeah. So we've talked about doing this, and
Mhm.
there's been a few times that we have sat down and been like, we should have just recorded this
Yes.
conversation. And now we're here where I've, again, just like with Emily, set up the entire contraption that none of you guys can see.
You need a behind the scenes photo, I think.
It's so much, y'all. It's so ratchet.
Lots of cords.
I have literally thought about, until we can actually have a podcast studio here at the office,
Mhm.
like whether I need to rent one or something, because it's like there is a plan, hopefully, to do it, but not right now. So I guess we've been talking about it, like about community. So what do you think? Maybe an initial question that can start us out is, maybe how did you come to be in our community? What has the journey been like for you to find our community and come to the place that you're at?
Yeah, so it feels really random, which I know it's not really random, but at the time I had no idea. I grew up in church, very involved. Basically, was born. I always say born in church, and I worked at a discipleship school and came back, and I was in a pretty bad bike accident, and I just kind of got tired of church the way I was experiencing it, and I was having a hard time finding like where I felt I belonged. I felt like I began to deconstruct, but not fully, just started to be like, maybe the way I was taught about God is actually not fully, who he is. And I think I was having a hard time finding a church that I really enjoyed, and that I felt connected to, and so I just stopped going. And I was like, "Unless I really wanna go, I'm not gonna force myself." And I worked at this warehouse that had all these local artists and events, and there's a coffee shop in there, and all the staff from our church would have their staff meetings every week.
Yeah.
And everyone is so nice, and I am, like, very warm and outgoing and chatty, and so we would all talk, and I was like, "These people are so wonderful," and then people would meet me, and they're like, "Oh, you go to Prob too?" And I'm like, "I've actually never heard of this." But I had so many people ask me, I was like, "Maybe it's a sign that I should go." And my friend was becoming a life coach, and he was practicing on me, and one of them was like, "Where's a part in your life that you feel is lacking?" And I felt like it was spiritual community. And so my challenge was just to attend a church. And I said, "Well, Prov sounds interesting because everyone already thinks I go there." So I went, and I remember I've never been that sweaty from being nervous, and I sat in the very back. Um, and I'm still here.
Now you're
I'm
here.
here. So that's how I found it here.
I love
Yeah, and
that.
that was 2000 the end of 2018. I think I came 2 weeks before Christmas.
Yeah, so you were here, gosh, like 2 years before I came in. Yeah. What was the journey like for you, especially obviously as a queer person coming into a church is interesting.
Yeah. So I started to kinda come out to myself in 2021, and then I had a therapist call me out on it, and I'm so grateful she did. And then I started to have a lot of anxiety because I loved volunteering in our church and being a part of it. And the message I had was, I can't be gay and be a part of our church. And so I started to feel very stressed and like grieving that I had to choose which one. And I would come to church and I just would like cry for the whole time, thinking like I could either be true to myself and lose everybody here or stay connected here and not be. And it just, like, felt so overwhelming where I was like, "I just need to find out." And so I remember I asked Sarah Claire if she'd get coffee with me, and she was the second person I told, and she responded so beautifully and excited, and she was like, "It's not gonna change anything. I'm so excited and proud of you." And I was like, a weight off my chest of I can be gay and still a part of our church, and it's such a
Yeah,
gift. Yeah.
I know.
That was
I
2021, I think.
I've loved getting to, like, basically be because that was around the time you and I met,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Had you come to that realization, like, right before we met or something? Where you were kinda starting that journey?
Yeah, actually, it might have been 2020 I started
Yeah.
thinking-ish. Um, and then I told Sarah Claire, I'm like, "I want, like, queer Christian friends, and I don't know where to find them." And she's like, "There's this guy, Josh, he's been coming around." I said, "Can you introduce me?" Months later, I'm taking matters into my own
Yeah,
hands.
because I started coming before
Mhm.
Christian even
Yes.
started coming,
And I didn't
and then
even
we
know
both
what you
came.
look like, and I saw you and your partner, Christian, wearing floral shirts a couple rows in front of me, I'm like, "That has to be them."
The gays were wearing
Yes, you guys
florals.
looked very cute, and, we all went to a brewery after, and I think I just walked up to you all and was like, "Hi, I need queer Christian friends.
Yeah.
Can we be friends?"
Well, that was because
Yeah, and that was it.
you had Marigold with you, the do that's Sarah Claire's dog. You
She's in the story a
I
lot.
know. Well, because again, we're coming into the
Yeah,
community, and I was
yeah.
like, "Is this your dog?" And you're like, "No, I'm watching it." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And
Mhm.
it's one of those things where, like, names are getting thrown out, and you're like, "Okay, I know who all these people are. I
Yeah.
don't know who any of these people are." But yeah, it's it's really funny to, like, think back through that and, so a lot of the stuff we've been talking about is community, and you all have probably heard me talk a lot about it, but we've really been able to create, like, a really beautiful community here. And it's really hard to sometimes explain that to people that haven't experienced it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? I know, like, you've experienced that even when people have said, "Why don't you move wherever?" Right?
Yeah, a lot of people are like, "Why are you staying in Florida? Why
Yeah.
would you want to live there?" You know?
Believe me, it's not
And,
about Florida.
um And they're like, "Why don't you move anywhere else?" And all I could think of is like, why would I leave the beautiful people and the place I call home to move somewhere else and be all alone? Like,
Yeah.
yes, I could make friends, but why would I wanna start over if I don't have to? And so
Mhm.
I would rather stay in a place that's not my favorite, around people I love, than to be in the mountains or whatever alone.
Yeah.
And that just feels more important to me
Yeah.
right now.
Okay. So, I think, y'all normally I have, like, really clear questions and where we're going, but I think both because we're friends and also because we're just here and I spent an hour setting this whole thing up. I we're just going with the flow. But I was just thinking, I feel like a good place that to start would be if you answer and I'll also answer. If you had to explain to someone what makes the community we have here like so special or makes it our community, like makes it this thing that's worth like, no, I'm not moving. How would you describe that to people? Because I think we can talk, all of us say like, I have a great community, but different people can mean different things or based on if you've experienced it or not. So like for you, what has made it like this cherishing thing?
Yeah, I think there's a couple factors, and one of them that helps me truly value community is being a single person, who also doesn't have kids, and so I think that alone helps me value it more than if I had, like, a big family and was like, "I'm okay."
Yeah.
They need community too, but especially, like, someone that doesn't have a family like that, and I think what's special about
You
our
cherish
community.
it more.
Yes.
Like it's I don't know, it's this thing like you're like, I need it.
Yeah, for sure, and I have the capacity to give to others too, because my time isn't taken by other people in that way. But I think our community is beautiful because it's not just like our community is Sundays and Wednesday nights. It's like, yes, and we all live within a couple miles of each other. I could walk to a lot of my friends' houses and we all go to the same yoga classes. I'm in Publix and I see a friend behind me.
Yeah.
We go to the same coffee shops on the same walks. Um, like someone's car gets broken down. Like we had a friend in our group chat who's like, "Can someone come and jump me?" It's like, "Yes, we
Yes.
can."
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I haven't told you this story.
Mhm.
This is perfect. You said about that, which yeah, I would love that about with what happened in the chat. But okay. Two no, it was literally last night. This literally happened to me last night. I was coming home from the Wednesday night groups. Our church has so basic church. We have Wednesday night groups. And so I I went to the gym after that. I was on the Vespa. And my Vespa is called Valentino, by the way. It's named after the goat in Wish. I don't know if you haven't watched it, the goat. It's like
I need to
character.
watch it apparently.
It's so good. He's like the main character in the entire movie. But anyway, I digress. So I'm on Valentino and I decided not to take Olive. I haven't been taking Olive down. Olive, not her cat, which I think it was mentioned, Olive being the street I normally go up and down because for context, in West Palm, it's like all streets, everything's north and south. You
Mhm.
don't really go east and west, you go north and south. And when I'm on my Vespa, there's one road I normally take, Olive. It's a lot calmer, but they've been doing all that construction on it. So it makes it's really weird. So I've been taking Flagler by the water. It's really beautiful. And especially at night, it's gorgeous. Well, last night I'm driving home. Gosh, I think it's like midnight almost
Oh, wow.
or like 11:30 midnight. And I hit, I didn't hit, but like I just hit a bump and it was enough that I was like, "Oh, wow, that was like a lot deeper than what I was thinking," but nothing crazy. And then suddenly the scooter starts acting weird and just dies.
No.
I'm like south of Southern, barely it's midnight, no one is around, like I'm between the water and these houses, and I'm just like, "Why won't it turn on?" And the brake light was on, but I am pushing to start the ignition, nothing. It will not act like it's gonna roll over or anything. But then there's a car behind me, and I'm just thinking, gosh, I pull over and I'm like, I'm gonna have to call Christian, tell him this, but I am not leaving my Vespa like on the middle of the road. So I'm gonna have to walk it to someone's house. I was like, I think Keith, our head pastor, I was like, I think his house is probably the closest. I'm gonna have to walk it over there, all this stuff. Suddenly the car pauses, pulls back. I was like, do you need help? And I was like, well, and then I look at him, he's like, Josh, is that you? It's Griffin,
Oh
Emily's
my
husband,
gosh.
who has already been on. He's
Amazing.
just coming back from Emily's rehearsal for her
Mm,
concert. And he was like, I saw this Vespa. And I was like, maybe they need help. And then I was like, is that Josh? And
amazing.
I was like, Griffin, this is community. This is
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because ultimately, also good news, Scooter was fine. When I knocked it, I accidentally hit the switch that just like the kill switch.
Gotcha.
So turned it back on. The Vespa was fine. But it was just a beautiful moment of like what are the chances
Mhm.
that the one car, not a single other car is on the street, and the one car that comes by 3 minutes after my
I
scooter breaks
love that
down
so much,
is
and I'm
like,
not surprised.
no, I'm not surprised. Which, by the way, I've learned if you wanna, like, pass people on from our church, you take Flagler
Mhm.
because I always pass everyone. But, yeah, that's when you talked about the car breaking down, I was like I literally just was yelling out to Griffin, "This is community.
Yeah.
This is what we're about."
And I think there's a common value of loving our city, wanting to invest in the arts.
Yes.
We have similar just what's important to us, things like listening, things like our own personal growth and investing in the lives of others. And I also think, it doesn't feel judgmental. We all could be on our own journeys and working through our own things. And it's not like you could only be a part if you believe these things.
Yeah.
It's like you're safe to figure things out. And that lets us just be ourselves. And I really love that.
Yeah. And, like, yeah, it is centered in some ways around church, but there's so many people, like, they don't come on Sunday or
We
they're
call them
not
like Prov adjacent.
Prov adjacent, or they go to story group or they go to all of this. And so, okay, so and it really is like I here's the thing I keep thinking through is what is it that how does this actually develop? Because I think you already hit on one thing, which I've thought about is like, it's the fact that we all live around each other. Like, I know when we bought our house, part of the reason we decided to live in it or like to buy it is because it was around where people live.
Yeah.
I know similar for you. Like,
Mhm. Yeah.
maybe like there's a lot of issues that you're like, wow, maybe not the best place, but it's the location of
Yeah,
deciding to be around
for
people.
sure.
So like what would be some of the other factors that you think intentionally go into making it that type of community?
I think being willing to put in the time. If
Mhm.
somebody wants to be home by themselves, like, you can only
Yeah.
go so far. You have to be willing to invest the time, and sometimes you don't necessarily feel like it. And anytime I don't really feel like it and do it anyway, I'm always grateful I did.
Yeah. I feel like that's such the hard thing
Yeah.
right now because there is such an ability to decide to stay home. And I get the differences of like personality. I am an extrovert, so I need to have that connection. But like at the same time, all of us, you have to decide to even beyond even conflict, which we can talk about that. But like just the idea of showing up, like what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And not being afraid to show up in your own vulnerability. Not only showing up when everything is great and then isolating when it's not, you
mhm.
know?
Yeah.
Um, and also, like, it doesn't have to look a certain way? I know a lot of our hangouts are both of us on your couch with, like, Golden Girls and our, like, ADHD train of thought, like, we cover so many topics, I don't even know if we can go back and remember what we talked about. And it's just like we're both couch rotting and
Yeah.
relaxing, but together, and I feel like, I live by myself and it doesn't feel lonely because I have such a great community around me.
Mhm. Yeah, it's the idea of like wasting time together.
Yeah.
Um,
The, like, casual intimacy of going grocery shopping with your friends or going on a walk, and not everything has to be like, "We're gonna go out," you know?
well, because I do believe that's one of the community experiences that is so lost today. I think part of it's by our cars, by by cell phones, by social media. It's not a secret, not a fan, social media. But beyond the intentional hanging out or getting coffee, it's the randomly passing your friend, running into each other at a coffee
Yeah,
shop, like the casual moments of just seeing each other, spending time together in a non-structured way.
very spontaneous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where it just is like because we're in the same rhythms of life. Like this morning, I was at Pump House and Haley walked in.
I love that.
I love it. And
I was
it,
walking to the beach and Pam honked at me, and I was like, "Who honked?" And I
who
saw it was
honked
Pam,
at
like,
me?
love that.
And it's so sad because like that you don't get to that until you've, like, literally put in the work that
Yeah,
you're going to be in proximity because that's, like, building rhythms around each other,
yeah,
that it just happens to be that you are going to the same coffee shops, you are walking down the same streets, you're driving down the same
yeah.
streets, um, that then those kind of things, but it's so sad because, like, that's what we miss, I feel like.
'Cause sometimes I feel like, we want what's fast and what's easy and convenient,
Yeah.
and sometimes that looks like choosing what's not really fast or
Mhm.
convenient because the value is on people and not like, how quickly can I get everything done,
Yeah.
you know?
This is what I appreciate about Dan, which you guys are gonna be hearing from
What a
Dan later
wonderful
on. What a wonderful human
and
being, Kenya, like, he brings such a different
yeah,
perspective, um, and I appreciate how much he emphasizes, like, the thing he hates about American culture is scheduling,
yeah.
and that it's so funny how in the American brain, you don't even have to say it. If you plan a coffee with someone, there's, like, something in our brains that ends at an hour,
Mhm.
maybe an hour and a half. But, like, our brains just go, "Okay, done. I have to go." Like, we schedule in this way, and it's not a matter of, like, "Oh, I'm gonna go see if they're home," or
Mhm.
"I'm gonna go stop by." Because that was what he was saying. He's like, when he came over Dan came over to our house to get mangoes from our tree. He brought his, like, new contraption that he was using,
Yes.
because we were at the point where we were just trying to get rid of our mangoes, and he was just, like, just going, "Back home in Kenya, like, if I wanted to hang out with a friend, I go to their house, and if they're not home, I go to the next person's house
Mhm.
until I decide to, like, you know, find someone." But the scheduling of it.
It's like we're afraid to inconvenience people because we don't trust that they could hold the boundary. If they're not available, they'll say it.
Yeah.
It's like we're afraid that somebody will say yes when they don't want to, and so we're afraid to ask, you
Yeah.
know? Whereas I know with you, I'll be like, "Hey, are you busy tonight?" And you're like, "Yeah, I am." I'm like, "Okay,"
Cool.
you know?
Great. Yeah.
And my feelings aren't hurt. And so I think it's vulnerable to ask, and then to also trust that they're gonna be truthful if it's not gonna work out,
Yeah,
you know?
and, like, allowing it. But that's the hard part is it really does take multiple people pursuing the same vision.
Yeah, one person can't be the only one doing
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, like, obviously, there's people who start it, like, we
Oh, for
came
sure.
into
I
something that
came
was
in and,
already.
like, I reaped wonderful things off of what people already
Yes.
were investing in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, like, there are starters, but I think it's really hard, and I think, y'all, what I'm hoping you guys can get from this is I think what we really struggle with is we're so removed from that, that it's hard for us to even envision
Yeah.
what that's like, and I think the closest we sometimes have is the idea of, like, an intentional community sharing a ginormous house, like, when people will be like, "Let's buy a mansion together," and I'm like, "That's really cool," but you have to find the house,
Yeah.
or you might be, like, out in the you know, outside of the city,
Right.
and so the hard part is, like, how to build that within the structure of the community where you're at, and I think it's, like, being able to have these conversations, it allows you to get a vision, I think, so then maybe seeing how to build it. Because I feel like now if, like, let's say we had to move somewhere, like, we're going somewhere else, I feel like now
I'd
that
be
we've
like, "Hey, I'm coming too."
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Well, that's what I mean, like,
Yeah.
let's say you, me, and Christian were like, "Okay, we have to go wherever." We've had the experience that now we could build something
Right.
like that and invite other people into it.
Yeah. And I think it's like we're so individualistic in this country, and I'm like that too. I think all of us, kinda grew up to be. And when you're in community, it's choosing to, like, also choose other people. Not saying to, like, deny yourself fully in, like, an unhealthy way, but if you need something and I'm tired, like, in community, I'm like, "I'm tired," but Josh asked if I could like, when I remember you weren't feeling well,
Yeah.
and, you wanted to get some, like, takeout, but you don't wanna pay the delivery, and you're like, "Rachel, can you go pick
Yes,
up this for me and bring it to me?" And I love that you asked that. And my car's broken down, so I think I Venmoed you the
you did.
delivery.
You Venmoed me the delivery
And
fee,
that
which
just
was so
felt like
sweet.
just fun, and, like, I would have
Yeah.
100% gone and gotten it for you, but my car is broken down, and so it's just, like, choosing that, and I think what's special is it just builds that trust and connection, and I'm so grateful. I never thought that it could be like this. I think a lot of times people experience this in college. You live near each other,
Yeah.
and then it's like you graduate and everyone goes off into their own houses, and it's lonely. Even
So
within marriages
lonely.
and families, it's lonely.
Yeah. And I think there is a blessing, like you said, of being single, being queer, anything that pushes you outside of the normal system. Because I think what often happens to people is if you're not forced to see yourself outside of the system, then you have a spouse, you have kids, and maybe that's enough for you. Often I don't actually believe most people if that's literally enough for them. Um, because I think then when there is the sadness, when there is the depression, then we think, "Oh, my spouse isn't giving it to me." Or, it is actually since we this is a sexuality podcast, I I did, hear, an opinion from someone that I thought was intriguing. I thought it was interesting how, like, the rise of the desire of polyamory, wonder like, the person was just questioning how much of that rises from our longing for community, but the way our society is set up, we don't know how to get anything like that except for from romantic sexual relationships, and knowing that we need more than one person,
Yeah,
which often comes from the, like, broad community, how much are we trying to get that from this one avenue that feels like the only avenue available right now in
yeah.
these things?
I'm sure that's, that's it probably some of the times, and other times it's
Yeah,
like but I
yeah,
do wonder if, like, people are lonely, and the concept of, like, my friendships can be really intimate is not even, like, there,
yeah.
you know?
Mhm. Yeah, because it's like, what is that even again, you have to have the imagination and the vision and the idea for what that can be like, but if you've not had anyone present that to you or you're not forced to do it, because like,
Yeah,
I think that is some of the thing of queer people, single people, we're forced to figure it out
yeah,
because you're like, "Well, I don't have the person," or the relationship structures are different, um, and so then you have to think outside of the box
yeah.
in some ways that others just don't have to. But then if you can fit inside of the box and you don't have someone that, like, presents it to you in any way, you just kind of accept it.
And I think, some of this loneliness too can be from people get married, and all of a sudden it's like, "Well, now I can't be friends with any of my guy friends anymore." Or he can't
Yes.
be friends with any of his friends that are girls.
Oh gosh, yes.
And that is really heartbreaking. And one thing I think what's beautiful about our community is that's not like that. And
Mhm.
I haven't experienced that. And I think within the queer community, it's beautiful because you don't really find that either. Maybe some people, but like, I think that's powerful instead of getting married and having just to, like, leave any friends that's not married, you only wanna hang out with married people. Like, I will go and, like, be like, "Hey, can I bring this and come over?" You know? Um, I'm not gonna get ditched just because someone gets married, and so I think, like, that's just one of the things that's beautiful about queer
Yeah.
community as
Which are
well.
we need more of that because you need to be able to go, "No, I'm not allowing that to happen." And gosh, yeah, if I could get straight people to understand one thing, it's that marriage even after marriage, you still need friendships of the opposite sex. Because yes, I do think there is a natural way that queer people will understand that, but, like, I really do believe that so deeply that you gotta have it. That's why I've loved being in groups with multiple genders, like, if we're doing small groups or we're doing being in
Yeah.
spaces,
It's healing.
it really is.
If, like, my experience with men as a lesbian was only harmful experiences, that's the view I'm gonna get. But if I'm in vulnerable spaces or I'm, like, hearing people's stories, it changes things, you know? And I also think, like, it's okay to have boundaries, and I'm wondering if a lot of people that are afraid of their partners having opposite sex friendships, it's like that's trauma or, like, trust problems we need to work through,
Yeah.
because you're it's like even if you think of, like, we all carry, like, the image of God, you're missing out on a lot by cutting people out because of that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or just simply seeing the opposite sex through a sexualized
Yeah,
lens. Because if you're only seeing one gender and I mean, I don't even think this is just a straight thing, because I think I see gay men who do it all the time, like, there's sex within all of their friendships or
yeah.
anything, like, if you only sexualize one gender and you can't see platonic, kind of intimacy, then it, like, really destroys.
Talk about that a lot when we watch The Chosen.
Yes,
of, like,
y'all.
why couldn't Jesus just be friends with John or Mary? Why do we have to create a story that they're romantically involved? I think we talked about that the other day for, like,
We
the
did.
100th time.
Yes, for the 100th time. Yeah, because 'cause I've been working on that for, like, the book thing I'm working on. It's just, like, it I understand why our minds go to it of saying, "Oh, where's Jesus and Mary Magdalene involved? Was John and Jesus involved?" But the sad part is we lose it gives in to that narrative that intimacy requires sex or romance. And romance, I think, by itself is just weird to define, but sex especially, it's
Yeah,
like, why couldn't Mary and Jesus have been just good
yeah.
friends, deep, like, intimate friends? But you did press on something else that I wanted to get into, and like I said, if we're not careful, we could be here for 3
Yeah.
hours. 'Cause I do think the other side of, like, we're talking about the intentionality it takes and all this stuff, but when you were saying about the insecurity about friendships or, like, for a spouse, there is the reality that one of the bigger challenges in community that you and I have both experienced
Mhm.
is being in community people, it shows what is below the surface for you.
Yeah,
And so, like, in that situation, this person has to realize that there has to be trust that is developed by dealing with your own story so you can trust. But, like, oh my gosh, like, so much of conflict then is arising our own stories.
yeah, yeah. I mean, being in community with others is vulnerable. I could be alone all I want, and nothing's gonna trigger me for the most part. And when you're around people, they're gonna get on your nerves, they're gonna bother you, we all have our days, you know? And I think seeing, like, conflict as not a reason just to throw your hands up and leave.
Yeah.
It's like, "No, this person's important to me, we're gonna work through this," you know, which is hard. Sometimes it's easier just to, "I'm done." And
Yeah.
I think often people do that.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've done in the past, in the name of boundaries. I'm cutting them out. It's like, actually, do you really want to, or is it hard?
Yeah.
And, you know, and I
Yeah.
feel like our community does that well,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah, because like, I feel like in today's world, because boundaries get so overused sometimes, like, abused. It's like, boundaries are good, but boundaries, I think, are an aspect of when my dignity isn't getting recognized, or maybe even in the growth period of going like, "Listen, I'm not ready to go
Yeah,
there maybe," but there still needs to be a recognition then that you're like, "This is a me thing."
yeah,
But the reality is, like, how often we use boundaries to keep from growing. Because I truly believe one of the other things, like, in spiritual formation is so often the American church especially has taken spiritual formation as this, like, individual idea, like, "I'm gonna go in my closet and I'm gonna
right.
read scripture, and then I'm gonna grow, and I'm gonna be like Jesus." I would argue you can't be formed spiritually if you're not in community,
Mhm.
because that's where it shows up. And then you see how you're not generous or
Right.
how you're not loving or how you're angry, because it comes up in relationship to other people. And so if you're not in community, like, it's actually the conflict with other people that makes you get formed.
Yeah, and often strengthens that friendship. Because how beautiful when there's a conflict and that person and you get to repair it, you know, that is such a beautiful experience. And I feel like if your community is just everybody gets along perfectly, nothing ever happens, it's like, "Okay, are we really being honest? Because if you're living close with people, they're gonna bother you,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And that's normal.
And I mean, it's the thing I even love about our friendship of, like, we've walked with each other
Mhm.
through the struggles
Yeah,
that we've each have done,
yeah.
and, ups and downs.
I think we're pretty healthy friends now.
Yeah,
At the beginning, it was a little codependent on both our parts.
yeah, yeah, we really struggled.
We share a therapist, so I'm sure
Yeah,
they heard on
we
both
go to the
ends.
same therapist. He gets to hear all the sides
There's
of
a lot of
everything.
us that go to the same
They
therapist.
do, yeah. I know. I feel like I don't see people coming out because it used to be I would, like,
We all are on
see.
we're all on different schedules now.
I know. Yeah. I know. I've sometimes joked being like, "I know you know everyone I'm talking about, but, like,
Mhm.
whatever. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter."
yeah, and it's like seeing I think long-term friends too are beautiful because you get to see each other through different seasons.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because it is, and I think that's, like, the encouraging thing for me because obviously it's so messy and it's so difficult. It's ooh, I could get emotional in this situation because I think I'm thinking about it on so many different, like, even recently being in a space with friends that are, like, at odds. and it's really hard, and it's much easier to go, "I don't wanna be here,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna leave." And granted, like, we need to leave, we need to take a breath, we need to
Yes.
step away, but it's the willingness to come back to the table that is really, really difficult,
Yeah.
and I think it's also really hard when we're in those situations where the other person decides not to, and, like, it happens, like, it does, like, but then those are the moments that we can say, "I'm not willing to try again," you know? Or, "I'm not gonna go down that route for fear
Yeah.
that they're gonna hurt me." And I say this to direct all the time. I'm like, "The hard part is, yeah, you're almost certainly gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to happen." And there's, like, the intentional thing of the other person can't recognize it, and they're not willing to see
Yeah.
it, and then they're just gonna stay in that unhealth, but, like, you're gonna get hurt, and the question is, can you name that, and can the other person hear it?
Yeah.
And I think at least it's the thing I love that's what I love about our community is that when I have experienced hurt, I have been able to learn in our community the courage to say something,
Mm.
as well as the courage to listen
And
when someone else comes.
and learning to listen well, I think, has created a lot of safety within our community,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Woo, y'all, I think it's like, um, just so much of what we could talk about. Yeah. Um, I'm debating where I wanna go with this. I think what so before we move, because I do wanna ask you a few questions about being a therapist. Before we move there, what maybe as a therapist and as a queer person, I would be interested to hear, like, because obviously, naturally, a lot of the audience of this podcast is LGBT or somewhere in that whole rainbow. Um, I engage it a lot in spiritual direction and just in community as people even, like, as I talk on so often about our community, I have people going, "I wanna come down and experience this." Like, I want to notice it because it is rare.
Yeah.
It is really, really hard to find already established. So then queer people are in a situation often where they're like, "Do I have the ability, the resilience to create this here, or do I have to move somewhere to find it?"
Yeah.
And what would you say to those kinds of queer people who are like, "I don't have that. It's not near me,
Yeah.
but I want it." Um, what would be like the guidance if you had a client coming to you?
I think I would just validate that that is such a beautiful longing, and it's also there's an aspect to grieving it that it is hard to find, and it's hard to start from the ground up. It's not impossible, but it takes time, and I think moving to a community is definitely, like, a great option, and even when you move there, you're still gonna have to invest into it,
Yeah,
it doesn't just, like, present itself and it's like, "Look, we've done it for you." It's like,
yeah,
no, you have to invest into it, and then as, like, creating your own community, I think like, I understand the desire for a queer community, and I think it's even broadening that, like, that is a need and to be open to, like, people that aren't even queer in your community,
yes,
because I do think there's something beautiful about having friends that are different life stages than you, different
yeah,
ages, different beliefs. Of course, we want to feel safe and supported, but still different views on things, and I think there's something really beautiful about, like, learning from others in that way.
yeah,
And so, um, I also feel like when you're intentionally getting to know people, of to notice your own expectations and to know what they're able to do and what
yeah,
their capacity is. If I'm meeting a friend and they're not wanting community to the same level I am, that's going to be disappointing if I'm expecting them to respond in the same way I am, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
And I think like it's a lot of trial and error too. You could really invest in someone and it doesn't work out.
yeah,
And I think there's also an aspect of, like, I don't even know how I ended up here, and somebody already kinda created a lot of it for me, and then I think I was in a time of life where I just, like, if somebody needed a dog sitter, okay. If somebody needed a ride to the airport, pick me. If
yeah,
somebody needed something, I'm here, you know, because I knew, like, if I was around and a part of people's lives, like, I would be I would, like, belong in that way. Not like what I did made me important, but if I'm never around, like, I'm not going to have the opportunity to be a part of people's lives, you know? And so I think that played a big part too. So I don't know if that answers your question. I don't know if it's,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
really fully one that can be, like, a
Well,
step by step, which is really hard too.
yeah. And I think no, I think it is a good thing because I think that is the challenge is, like, when we aren't in that
Yeah.
place, um, well, one of 2 things. Either are we in a community that we're just it's very difficult to see whether this is a community
Mhm.
we can be a part of, or, like, we want the steps to just suddenly have it
Yeah.
or to suddenly, do it, and the reality is 2 things that you said that really stood out to me is, like, no matter what, community takes sacrifice
Mhm.
because either you're gonna sacrifice to move to it, and you're
Mhm.
gonna lose whatever you have for that, or even when you find it, even when you find something beautiful like ours, like, I would rather not live in the United States. It's just the reality.
Mhm.
But, like, Christian and I have decided, like, we are here right now because of the people here. And the hard part is when you choose community, you don't actually know what that will look like in 5 years.
Mhm.
And can you commit to, like, be there? Obviously, we have situations. We get jobs, they take us. There's, like,
Right.
our
And we
community struggles
experienced
with
that.
affordability.
Yeah, and during
Yeah.
COVID, a lot of people moved away, and that was a lot of grief for our community.
Yeah, there's no and that some of that is natural,
Mhm.
and especially when you're trying to develop it in a space where it's not there. But I think the other aspect of what you were saying that's really good is I think we dream sometimes. Eh, so there's aspects of the fact that I think we go through phases of how important other queer people are because we want people like us. We've never experienced it before, and it's beautiful when you can recognize that, but then also get to the point where you see, like you're saying, like, the beauty of other people. 'Cause I've definitely experienced it before where I was like, "Ugh, well, I just have straight people," or I just have whatever,
Or
like,
I'm
the
like, "What if I hang out with them and people think I'm straight?"
yeah. Yeah, and, like or I'm like, "Oh my god, I have to explain all of these things constantly," or "I can't talk because I feel like I'm just gonna be seen as the person who always talks about being gay," that thing. And there's that phase, but then you go through finding gay community or queer community, and then after a while, which is where I'd say we both are at, is like you go, "Oh, wow, but there's actually I wouldn't want just that."
Yeah,
You know? Like, I don't want just having people that have my exact because no ultimately, no one actually has your
right.
exact experience. Your experience is your experience. And there's an aspect of association and differentiation in community, and we're always differentiating ourselves. It was someone taught me this that me and Christian
Okay.
was that even in the Enneagram, we whether or not it was true or not, we met each other believing we were both threes.
Mhm.
And whether or not we just had misunderstood that or we differentiate but the therapist we had seen initially just to talk through things was explaining that often when people have the same Enneagram join in, like, any kind of, like, committed relationship, they actually differentiate.
Interesting.
Their Enneagrams will
Hmm.
shift or they'll lean into their wings because we naturally don't want to actually be in like, we naturally find our place in community.
It's almost like we try to be like others to belong, but then when we finally feel safe, we know we belong even if we're ourselves and a little
Yeah,
different,
yeah.
you know?
And then you, like, find I think that's, like, Paul's whole thing of, like, the body being, like, then you realize, "Okay, no, I can be a foot, or I can be a hand, or I can be whatever." Like, the whole concept being, yeah, you find the safety in the association, but then it's actually when you can realize the differentiation that it becomes a really healthy
Yeah.
attachment.
I remember I don't know if I even told you this.
Tell me.
Um, so I remember when I met you and I found out you and Christian were side B, I was like, "Am I gonna have to be side B to be friends with them?"
Yeah.
And I had a lot of internal conflict about, can we still be friends because I'm affirming? And so I think, like, I was just very wishy-washy, like, I don't know," because I was afraid to, like, say it, because I didn't wanna, like, lose that. And I think what's beautiful, and this kinda goes with, like, be able to be friends that believe different things is finally I was like, "I'm affirming," and it
Yeah.
didn't make a difference. It didn't matter,
No.
and I think being able to respect that is really beautiful. Um, and so, yeah,
And we've been able to hear each other in the nuance, like, differences of how what come up in our lives because of,
yeah,
like, our differing beliefs, different, like, sexual ethics and all of these things, and
and neither of us try to convince the other to
no,
change.
no.
I'm not trying to
Yeah,
go and convince you to do
I
anything, and
know.
you're not trying to convince me to do anything.
I can take this out if you don't want me to say it,
You can
but it's
say
even
it.
just, like, the tenderness book when
Yes.
I've,
Oh, you could say it.
recommended
Yeah, you
ten
could say
okay.
it.
Yeah, because it's kinda like when I, encourage you to be like, "Hey, you might enjoy tenderness," but it's very much a side B book, and there's a little bit of
This is
feeling
a couple
maybe
years
that
ago.
yeah,
Yes.
this is years ago, but I was like, there was a little bit of feeling of if I was pushing you to be side
Yeah,
B,
I
you
thought
know?
I thought you were trying to get me to read it to, like,
Yeah.
convert me, not really, to, like, sway me, and I read, like, 2 pages, and I was like, "What is this?" And I put it
Nope.
down, and I, like, didn't pick it up for a long time, and then finally I did, and I was like, "Okay, this is a good book." And
Yeah.
then I was like, "I know Josh. He didn't have an agenda in giving this to me."
Yeah, it's just really hard because like, there's really not a lot of really good spiritual formation books for queer people. I feel like that don't either go, "You have to, do have s be s looking for a marriage," or, "You have to be celibate," and obviously there's, like, I would say even Eve Tushin doesn't technically go like that, but she's writing to side B people.
Yes.
She's saying she understands,
And I
like,
feel like
her
if I read it
audience.
now, it would be totally
Yeah.
fine, but at that point, it was like a kind of a sensitive subject of
Yeah.
like, I don't know,
Yeah.
and, like, through that lens of feeling insecure, I, like, interpreted you giving me that book as you having an agenda, and I think I even shared that with you.
Yeah,
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 and
yeah,
you
you did.
explained, and I was like, "Oh, that feels so nice to ask for clarity." Like, I
Yeah.
just wanna clarify everything and not assume because then it just solves so many problems.
Yeah, because I feel like our friendship has also been helpful for me because I've always struggled with being friends
A
with affirming
lesbian.
a lesbian. No, like, affirming queer people because I've always felt like there's an aspect of, can I truly be honest about my life? Can I truly share the struggles of my own life without going, "Well, wouldn't you know it'd be easier if you were, affirming?" And,
It wouldn't be. It's not easier either way.
not easier either way. But, the space that we've been able to cultivate
Mhm.
in that way, I'm like, it is a glorious thing.
And we don't
So,
talk about it all the time because 'cause we're so much more than just that.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, like, the final thing that we did, like, mention it, and so I wanted us to be able to discuss it as it, like, um, is what I'm trying to remember how we had put it because it was it was it about, like, whether it's helpful to find a queer therapist or not?
But that was yeah, that was one of the questions. Was it, regarding this
Yeah,
topic? I felt that was, like, a different idea we had.
that was a different idea. It wasn't this topic, but I felt like it was a really good one, so I this is gonna because we're getting close to time. So maybe as a final, just, like, an extra little thing, because I actually do find this very often, like, for instance, um, people I have directees all over the world because people want someone to speak with that understands.
Mhm.
And I would say not just about whether they're queer or straight, and also there's the aspect of, like, even maybe even affirming or say B and, like, should they share? Because I'll have directees who come to me that are affirming, and I'm like, I don't I just say, "If you know anything about my beliefs, like, I don't lead with them.
Yeah.
I'm not here to force anything down your throat." But what are your thoughts if you were talking to a queer person about a therapist and, like, pros and cons of, like, finding in this kind of association differentiation of what you see as the benefits or negatives?
So, my therapist is a straight man. I never thought I'd have a male therapist, and here we are,
Here
you
we
know?
are.
Um, and I didn't feel the need to have a queer therapist, and I think part of that could be because I have people in my community that are, like, investing in me that are queer. I think when it comes to finding a therapist, just because someone is queer doesn't mean they're a good therapist or a safe person or even a good fit for you, right? The same way if I was looking for a female therapist, just because they're a woman doesn't mean they're going to be a good therapist, a good fit for me. And so I think if that is the only qualification you're looking for, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I think there's a lot of straight therapists as well that are educated and could be supportive because there is a level of we don't need to fully relate to the client to be able to support them. I haven't gone through everything one of my clients have gone through, you know? I do think with a therapist, it's important for them to have context, to understand different words. I've had clients share that it feels good that when they talk about things and use different vocabulary, they don't have to go and explain it every time, and so I do think that's a benefit. If you have a therapist and they're like, "Wait, what does that mean? What does that
Yeah.
mean?" It's like a lot of, like, labor is tiring. And so I think even more importantly is, do I feel safe? Do I feel listened and heard? Do I feel like, I could be myself and I'm not being judged? And even more so is, like, if I'm processing trauma or anything like that, like, are they able and qualified to help me,
Yeah.
you know? And if finding a queer therapist feels really important, like, that could be part of it, but I also think that should not be the only
Yeah.
indicator.
Yeah. Because you actually need someone, depending on what you're looking to work
Mhm,
on, who's actually gonna be able. Because like, yeah, I went to our the therapist that we share together because he was doing internal family systems,
mhm.
and I wanted to try
Yeah.
this mode of, like, therapy. And actually, it's really funny because one of the things that made helped me confirm, "Okay, no, this is the therapist for me." Because like, we don't talk about whatever he believes really, but I know we don't, like, we're not
Are we gonna
necessarily.
ask him to listen to this episode?
I don't know, we'll see. Maybe he'll find it. But, next therapy session, I'll be like, "So I talked about you on my podcast."
And so did Rachel, but you can't tell me that you know who she is.
Um, there was a session where I was talking about celibacy, and he made a mention of erotic celibacy, which was really, I was without me mentioning it, and that was something that clicked for me only because, like, so often in my journey of celibacy, it's really hard to find people who understand that their celibacy isn't just, "I'm not having sex," like, there is a deeper understanding, and honestly, in some ways, messier understanding of, like, how to pursue celibacy beyond just making sure you, like, stop doing the act, but, like, actually how do you bring your full self into this experience that I desired to find in, and, like, how do I not just, like, go, "Cool, not having sex, great," but, like, how do I bring even the part of me that desires sex into
Yeah.
celibacy? And the moment he mentioned that, I was like, "Okay, I think this is, like, a good space," because, yeah, it really just depends on, can this person walk with me and challenge me to, like, become or, like, to work through the areas, and something comes from that differentiation or associate,
Yeah.
'cause, there have been, even I would say there's actually been aspects of my journey that's actually been helpful that he's not queer, and that can happen in a lot of different ways. Maybe it's healing to receive the compassion from a straight person, or like you, maybe like for a man, these kinds of things, so
Yeah.
that makes sense.
And, with therapists, if it's not a good fit, you could just
Yeah.
stop seeing them and try someone
Oh,
else.
yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
I will
Or
s
sometimes people are good for, like, a season
Yeah,
of what you need.
exactly. Maybe you need a queer therapist for a little bit, and then you're like, "Actually, I'm gonna try something else." Um, I will say, like, I have some clients that do share that they don't have a lot of people in their life that are queer, and it feels good for them to have a queer therapist,
Totally.
or they want to process something that feels very nuanced, and it feels safer to share with someone, that experiences it. I mean, mostly don't talk details about my experience as a
Yeah.
lesbian, like, on the website, it just says, like, I have clinical and personal experience. So read into what you want, and then if you look at me, sometimes people are like, "Okay." Um, but, the same way a straight therapist doesn't typically talk about their sex life. Like, I'm not either, but I do think knowing that that person has experienced coming out, has experienced that marginalization, has experienced the beauty of, like, the queer community does feel safe. And so I think, like, is it really important? Like, what do you when you want a queer therapist, like, what is the reason you're looking for that? Um, and try it out, but also be open to others.
I'm glad to have finally had you on the
Yeah.
podcast, and yeah, glad we were able to talk about community because it's definitely one I wanna talk about a lot on
Yeah.
this, because I just think community is is a part of, like I've said on this podcast, is like sexuality is not just about the relationships where you're having sex or you're being romantic.
Right.
Like, it is the embodiment of having intimacy. And I actually think the areas where we struggle with that is not in the like deep, intimate relationships. It's the
Yeah.
community, the like day to day, the random exchanges. So like I want to talk about that part of sexuality more because I just think that's so much of what's
Yeah.
missing.
And lastly, this came to mind as something that you did actually that was really meaningful among many, many things. But my car was breaking down constantly, and it must have been like 11 o'clock at night. And it broke down in the middle of like a
Oh yeah, you were
strip
at the
mall
plaza.
on the side of Dixie, pitch black, and I called AAA, and it's gonna be, like, 2 hours. And I called you, and you came and sat with me, so I wasn't by myself, and we just, like, hung out. I actually think we left my car, got McDonald's, and came back,
Yeah, we did,
and
and then
we,
we came
like
back.
it wasn't even, like, miserable, we just, like, hung out, and then they came and fixed it and, like, went on, and that felt so meaningful because if I had to sit there by myself, I would've been very stressed, it was very dark, my phone is probably dying because that's just how it is with me, and instead, I got to have a moment with a friend, and it turned into, like, not even just waiting for the car, but, like, how can we just enjoy each other
Yeah.
right now? And we did get
Oh,
McDonald's that night
did get
and come back.
McDonald's.
Mhm.
Sweet.
Yeah, special.
Well, I love you so
I love you
much.
too. I
If
can't hug you, you're
people
really far.
Yeah, if people are looking for a counselor in Florida,
Mhm.
where can they find your work?
Okay, so it is maybe you could put it in the
It'll be in the show notes, but if you wanna say
perfect,
it.
bungalowcounseling.com. You'll find me, and then you'll find a lot of other therapists that are amazing on there. So that's where you can find us.
Perfect, yep, and, so be there. If you're looking for a counselor in Florida, here you go,
And if you're in West
campus,
Palm, check out
West Palm.
Providencia,
Yeah, yeah,
WPB.
yeah, so and for everyone, thank you so much for listening. Wherever you are listening, please subscribe, give a review. Would love for some more reviews, building it up, wherever that is at. And you can go to holyourselves.org for spiritual direction, cohorts, and all of those things. Also, the Patreon on patreon.com/holy ourselves. You can find more content. I do a monthly episode by myself, and then every quarter I do a like joint, like extra interview on something. And there's different tiers with that. I've also gotten to announce that I'm writing a book.
Amazing.
I was gonna say something about it at the beginning, but I was feeling a little bit flustered at the beginning. It's just because we had been setting up all this, and now I feel, like, a
Running in
lot
the
better.
rain, all of that.
Running in the rain, trying to set it up. But, yeah, I, have officially signed a contract with InterVarsity
Amazing.
Press to write a book. Can't believe it. Insane. So, there's actually a tier on there where I'll be sharing quarterly updates where you can actually read drafts of some of it,
Mhm.
pieces of it, and even give feedback if you want to. So you can see a little bit beforehand. And then finally, my newsletter is coming out, like, or just came out, the one about Frodo. Oh my God. Which, by the way, if you read it, the friend was
Me.
Rachel.
I actually apologized to Josh after to be like, I didn't hurt your feelings, right?"
I know.
I called
Yeah.
it out, and I
He
was like,
helped
"That
me
was actually
realize.
strong," and we were with people, but
I was like, you know what? That's actually true. But it actually was so fitting because the next episode is going to be having some dear friends on, and we're going to talk. It's going to sound really random, y'all, but trust me on this. It's a conversation you won't want to miss. We're going to talk about the themes of spirituality and sexuality in Lord of the
okay, it's not
Rings.
random if people know you. It's very on brand. It makes
It
so
is
much sense.
very on brand. And I was, I was watching an interview of someone talk about the how the ways we think about death impact how we live.
Oh,
And
that makes sense.
it was thinking, yeah, it's like if you're afraid of it, you're gonna live to like run from it if you like are fine, all these things. And it made me think back to this whole thing about how that's a big theme in Lord of the Rings. I was like, I want to talk about Lord of the Rings on this podcast. And we're gonna talk about friendship and sexuality and all this. So like I promise you, even if you're not a Lord of the Rings fan, you do not have to be a Lord of the Rings fan. I think it'll be good to talk about literature and just kind of how we see these things and how they do it. But I'm picking Lord of the Rings because it's my podcast and I get to choose.
To do
So
what you
I get to do what I want. So that'll be the next episode. And thank you as always to Transient Friends, the Transient Friends, for our theme song.
Mhm.
And yeah,
Love
so
them.
good. Yeah. But just as a plug as well, our beautiful friend Taylor Smythe, who is that just came out with a miniseries podcast drama, Treasure Hunters, came out of Florida. So check that out. If you like audio dramas, go check it out. Like it's a fun little thing. But that's done by Taylor Smythe, who wrote it, like created our theme song. So all right. Thanks everyone.
Part of the
Thanks,
community.
Rachel.
You're welcome. Thank you.
It won't be the last time. Next time hopefully I won't have
No, we love it. Bye.